Okay, cool. Then we will get right into it. Give me a sec to jump in. I'm going to drop an Xmetric form now and again at the end. Rob, this behavior, this request for seeing is not to be encouraged. That is all. I'm going to drop the Xmetric form just for anyone who's unfamiliar. You can get some Xmetric just for filling this out and for showing up. I see a lot of familiar faces, even a few Xmetric masters. But if you're new or if you're listening to this later, Xmetric unlocks a variety of things for you in MetricsDAO. And so as much of it as you can lay your hands on, that's a good thing. Otherwise, we're going to kick off. We're already recording. Thank you to Patrick, one of our Flow contributors, for locking that down every week. So welcome to the MetricsDAO community call. As usual, please keep your mic muted if you're not talking. You can chime in at chat with anything at any time except requests for GA to sing. Today, we're going to chat about education, as usual. Vaida, I'll tap in for that. We're also going to talk about some of the measures that we've taken for better submissions, improving the review process, cutting down on plagiarism, encouraging people to post short, concise analysis rather than floods of text. I'll talk about the reviewer and Xmetric Master special training that's happening later this week. And then Rob and I will jam a little bit on what makes for truly great submissions, and we'll talk a little bit about Rob's interview with Kofi earlier this week, and we can make sure to drop that and make it available as well. So unless anybody's got any questions or comments, I'll give folks a moment to chime in with those. Otherwise, we'll jump right in. Oh, also, real quick before we do that, we are at an earlier time, partly because a bunch of us were traveling, but also because some folks in the Asia Pacific had requested that. So we do listen to that type of feedback and experiment with it. Anytime you have feedback on how we can do things better, you know, the DAO belongs to all of us. So put it out there. We will do our best to experiment with it, try anything once. And with that, I think... unless anybody has questions, we're good to get into it. Awesome. Real quick, first of all, a lot of folks are familiar with the analytics challenges that we run, but in case you're not, MetricsDAO runs analytics-based bounties every week, usually related to crypto, but not always. We had some recent submissions about the stock market and about climate and environment that I really enjoyed. So we are always experimenting with new formats, new payout curves. Who runs the Bounty Ops pod with Zook and Adria and Litzerel are going to experiment with different payouts for different types of submissions. Some feedback we've gotten, some folks feel like the current payout structure is too friendly to the first place and hurts everybody else. So that's the type of thing that we can experiment with. The latest submissions are all, or the latest opportunities will be posted here. I threw that up in chat, but just wanted folks to know that that was another thing we'll continue to experiment with. How do you get compensated for your submission? So if you're new, you haven't tried that before, check it out. Great way to get involved, get engaged in our bounty program. I'm going to take a quick breather, see if there's any questions there, and then talk about another key element. And by talk about, I mean turn over to Vaida, our Fearless Education Pod leader, talk about education. Hey, Pike, just seeing your hello, drop a GM. I know you're usually good about that in GMGN, if you haven't. The same for anybody else. And just a reminder, we have a Warm Introductions channel as well. If you're new, you want to say hi, drop a note in Warm Introductions. We'll drop a note back. With that, let me take a quick breather, turn it over to Vaida. Vaida, I can hear you fine. So go ahead, introduce yourself, and let's talk a little bit about education.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar faces here. People who attended our webinars. Really awesome to see your engagement with the community and with our education initiatives. Yeah, we do have quite a few things going on at the moment at MetricsDAO with the education. And first, we are very much focusing on running the free analytics programs. So we have just started this week on Tuesday the free analytics 201 cohort. So this is the first cohort that we are running, and we received extremely high interest that we even had to close the registrations early. So I'm wondering if there's any of you here that actually are attending the 201 cohort and attended the first session. Give us a shout in the chat. But for those who could not get in or maybe would like to join the next 201 cohort, there is going to be another one in a few weeks. We are going to inform you when that's going to happen. Keep, so we'll keep you posted on that. But if you are not ready to jump into the 201 yet, we do have a 101 cohort starting in a couple of weeks. So you can already register to that cohort. I will drop the link in the chat in a moment. If you cannot attend the live cohort, we also have the asynchronous option. So it also, I will drop a link for that in the chat. Other than the Web3 analytics cohorts, we also are regularly running webinars to onboard you onto the different blockchain ecosystems, a lot of these ecosystems, as well as our partners. And also we have loads of analytics challenges as well with those ecosystems. So next week, we are hosting two webinars, one on Monday and one on Wednesday, both at noon EST time. So on Monday, we're going to have a NEAR webinar. So it's going to be a good primer to understand the NEAR ecosystem. And on Wednesday, we're going to have a Web3 Analytics 101 webinar. So if you're not sure if Web3 Analytics is for you, if you want to learn more about the upcoming cohort or in general how the program is run and what does it mean to be a Web3 analyst, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to learn about it. So I will as well drop the link in the chat. Other than that, we do have Algorand and Ethereum courses already available that are completely asynchronous in our learning platform. So feel free to register and check them out. So thank you, everyone. And if you do have any feedback, any thoughts on like maybe what courses you would like to see, what webinars you would like to see, always very open for your feedback. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Vaida. I will tell everybody I've seen the education roadmap. It's lit. It's super lit. Lit AF. I can't really say anything more than that because I'll get in a lot of trouble. But we're really excited about what's coming. The education courses have been unbelievably popular. We see that. We're going to do our best to keep churning out great content on that score. And speaking of great content, I wanted to turn it over to Rob, aka Rplust, to chat a little bit about the interview that he did with Xerox Kofi. And then Rob and I will talk a little bit about our experiences on what makes fantastic analysis. We see a lot of great submissions. We've also seen a lot of submissions that aren't quite there. And we want to talk a little bit about how to get those to the next level. And the next level means you can do this professionally. And Rob is super well qualified to talk about that. So Rob, let me turn it over to you. How did your interview go? What were some of the key takeaways? And I'll drop that in general and also in chat for anybody who hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, thanks, GJ. Yeah, so the interview with Kofi was more or less like really enlightening, like in a sense that a lot of the things we discussed were like why are we even in crypto, and also as to what tools can we use to see what's actually being sticky and being used by users. So some of these were like his dashboard on trending contracts across different chains, as well as his newsletter on 0x Trends, where he looks at up and coming projects. And again, the part where on why are we here is that I guess one of the main interesting points was that he touched upon like why he's so passionate about adoption in developing markets, because a lot of the need for crypto is coming out of that region of the world. Whereas in more developed markets, it's not really that obvious like why. In some cases, you need another financial system where if banks work, like if you can have a basic savings account and all that, whereas this concept is like not so accessible in other parts of the world. So it's a really good point to highlight, and we went a bit into his background as to why he's so passionate about it. Other things is that he went the other way around, whereas people who go through our courses in MetricsDAO or even like listen to Behind the Charts want to get to a full-time role in crypto. Heck, we even have like a How I Broke Into Web3 series, right? But then he went the other way around. He had a full-time job with one confirmation, and he chose to leave to freelance full-time as a oxymoronic that sounds, full-time freelance. And the reason being is that he wanted more freedom. He wanted more freedom to do what he wanted, which is to focus on data. He wanted more freedom to choose the projects he wanted to focus on. So it's really still important to, yes, having a full-time job is great, but there are other ways to also, if you're just going it to make some money, to earn a living, there are a lot of other ways where you don't have to sacrifice your freedom for it, assuming you have, the skills and all of that. So I think that's and thanks DJ for linking the highlights or the highlights blog post for the interview. And if you want to listen to the full recording, which I encourage you to do, there's a YouTube link at the end of the blog as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to address a comment that showed up in chat about helping students get data jobs, like Kofi has done, and like Rob has done. Rob, would you mind really quick, taking a minute and talking about your journey and how you got to where you were, or how you got to where you are, and then we'll talk a little bit about how other people could follow in your footsteps.
Yeah. So currently, I am a protocol specialist slash data person in rated labs. We build this. How do I link it in the chat? We basically build context and data sets and data products around what validators are doing in proof of stake networks as they secure these $1 million like chains. Like what are you doing? So we try to build context on that, build data products, and etc. So I'm mainly the person who studies the protocol and gets the data sets for what validators are doing, the duties they have, etc. And my journey started with me just joining MetricsDAO, actually, and doing some bounties and just trying to get my skills up and everything. And eventually, I was able to build a portfolio on Flipside and Dune, and eventually use those portfolios to apply for job listings across different companies. But how I got this current job is that the people actually the founders found the work that I did, and they reached out, had me do a bounty for them, and luckily enough, they liked my work enough to offer me a full-time role. So, I wish I had a more like secret sauce, secret weapon answer as to how to get a job, but I think as what Hildabi echoed in the first Behind the Charts this year, and Kofi during our interview, and even like Peter the Rock, shout out Peter, who's working in Polygon, that you really have to build the dashboards, build the portfolio, build a network, try to share your work actively to like the protocols you're building the analysis for, and eventually some opportunities will come knocking. Maybe the first ones won't be to your liking, but as you grind, maybe a couple more months. Kofi even gave like a 6 months. Like he said, like if you keep doing things consistently for 6 months, things will look up and you will eventually find opportunities, even better full-time opportunities. So there is no shortcut, but at least there's a formula for it. So yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit more about that formula. I'll give a brief pitch for some of our upcoming education courses as well. We are laser focused on providing not just the 101, not just the 201, but also additional training for people in the other elements of promoting yourself in Web3, promoting your work, entering hackathons, and being able to build up your persona and your portfolio so that you become not only an amazing bounty hunter, but also prepare yourself to be a professional if that's what you want. I will add some of the best submissions we've seen come from people working together. Not everybody has all the skills, front end, back end, presentation, marketing, being able to craft a great narrative. But there will be guaranteed other people in MetricsDAO, in Dune, in Flipside, and other communities who have skills that you lack. So my first advice, unless you're a superstar, do it all, like Purple Gang at Flipside, like Dune Wizards, make friends, find people who have the skill sets that you might not, and be prepared to work together. I saw Adria on this call earlier. Adria worked with Jack from my team earlier this week to put out some awesome flow analysis. Don't be afraid to collaborate with people. That would be one of the first things I would say. But also for the skills that you might not have, we'll teach you. MetricsDAO is going to continue to churn out great education content. As I said, I've seen Vaida's roadmap. It's awesome. But not everything is just make great analysis. It's also figure out how to build a portfolio and how to network. So, Rob, you said the formula. I really liked that. I think having a portfolio is a super, super important part of that formula. So would you mind talking a little bit more about how you constructed yours and what people should think about as they make the portfolio of work that they can show to others?
Yep. So for me, it was a mix of like what bounties were being put out by MetricsDAO and like other say challenge providers, because that's a way to signal, like usually when a bounty comes out, there's a demand for it from the protocol side or the organization side. Like we don't just choose bounties out of thin air just because, right? There's some demand for it, whether it's interest from the community or it's interest from the organizations themselves. So it's a good way to like be in step with the latest trends, like if you build your portfolio around that. So that's one. And then the other is, of course, don't just, but then again, on the other side, like don't just build dashboards for the heck of it. You should try to follow things that you're interested in. That's something that was echoed by Hildabi and also like Peter earlier on, and something that's really encouraged by also like Danner and everything. Like if or other people, like focus on things you're interested in, because that's one of the main ways you're gonna keep building, right? And one interesting point is that during the time when I was still doing bounties and building my portfolio, like it was encouraged, or at least it was table stakes, to have some background information on the project you're analyzing, like to have it on the dashboard itself, maybe put a paragraph. These days, I think with the many projects popping up, like even though it's a bear market, there's a lot of building going on. Actually, like bear markets are for building, as they say. So chances are, when people see your dashboard or your portfolio, they did it by searching for that specific like topic. So they already have some background information on the protocol you've analyzed. So it's not necessary to like flood your dashboard with like background data. Just link to the docs. If they're good, it should be okay already. So go straight to the point. Focus your charts on things that are interesting for you, because chances are like there are people like you who are also genuinely curious about what you're analyzing. So don't try to flood your portfolio with like all the different types of charts and all the different topics. Try to focus it and just show the charts and insights straight away that that are interesting. And because if not, like your audience will lose interest, and those viewing your portfolio will easily assume that all your dashboards will look the same, so just gloss over it, right? So I'd say listen to the trends, the bounties that you see, figure out what's interesting for you, and then focus your dashboards, right? Don't flood it all with like all the charts that you think are pretty.
Yeah, I strongly agree with that. I think the point about you don't need to provide a recap of the project, especially if all you're doing is linking to a website. You can just provide a quick summary for folks, maybe an image, but link to the project documentation. That's totally fine. That's sufficient. I think a lot of folks, you lose people right away if you're just presenting information that can easily be found elsewhere. I would add, and this is a little bit different than the way I think we've done things in the past, I've asked people in their analysis to include their methodology. The main reason for that is because other people might be studying your dashboards and learning to do the same type of analysis. But if you really are trying to build a portfolio, I would either put your methodology section down at the bottom for those who are interested in following it, or link elsewhere. Again, just not cluttering the dashboard. Something we see a lot, unfortunately, people will do analysis and it won't load for 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 30 seconds. That will kill you in Web3. It's got to load quickly, and that means it has to have the information that's important and relevant to the audience, and nothing more than that. Something I've seen people do successfully as well is create a dashboard and then link to an additional write-up or a mirror article or a Twitter thread. And the reason for that is that it helps prevent the dashboard from getting outdated. I'm not going to provide any guidance on that. We still love seeing the narrative content in the dashboards that are getting presented, but we may start experimenting with having a separation between the charts and the visuals and brief explanations of those, and doing a write-up separately, because write-ups will get out of date super quickly, and they can also be refreshed at a later date. So that's something that we're going to experiment with. We'll give a lot of advance notice and warning before we do that, so people aren't surprised or confused by the grading criteria. But that's something that we've seen as well. You don't want to make a dashboard and have it out of date a week later. And one way to do that is to write a thread that summarizes the insights, or to write a mirror article that focuses on insights, and then set the dashboard to refresh so that it's still valid, a week, 2 weeks, a month later. I'm seeing a comment from Ryan in chat, sharing your work on Twitter. Yes, we've got some cool education stuff in the works to teach people how to do this, but I totally agree. Like, if you really want to promote yourself, the magic number that I have seen, and this varies a little bit, but, and Rob, I'm curious for your point of view as well. You mentioned Kofi said 6 months. For me, people who are getting 1,000 followers, after that point, one, you'll grow organically. It's much, much easier to go from 1,000 to 2,000 than from 0 to 1,000. And that's also the point where I will start, getting requests from projects for, hey, do you have a freelancer? Do you have someone who's willing to work on this? Do you have someone who's willing to tackle this? And one of the things I'll look for, there's a very strong correlation between people who have 1,000 followers and people who do the very best work and are able to promote it. So one easy way just to build your persona, if you can get to that 1,000 mark, it makes it much, much easier. And typically to get there, the people who have done that are also, just to shout out a couple names like Brian, Pinehurst, people who are at the top of the game. So definitely don't neglect Twitter if you want to build up your persona, if you want to get freelance work, pay the bills, doing Web3 analysis. The Twitter is still where it's at. It's still super important. As I said, we're going to teach those skills as well. So something to look forward to. There will be education around that. I don't want to go too late, and we've only got about 5 minutes left. So if you're interested in this type of thing, this type of dialogue, Rob has a wealth of insights. I've read a lot of analysis. We're happy to continue sharing, but let us know what you want to see. So with that, Rob, anything else you want to really emphasize on people who want to take the next step beyond doing bounties and maybe go the full-time route the way that you've done?
Yeah, GJ, I'll let you know how easy it is to get from 1,000 to 2,000 followers once I get there. sub 1,000 follower gang right here.
Oh, we'll change that. We got to address that for sure.
No, yeah, but reflecting on it, it's good to see like MetricsDAO actually encouraging this in the bounties as well, because that's something I didn't do early on in my analysis. When I was doing bounties, I didn't post on Twitter a lot, or I didn't have any supplementary writings on it, but I would highly encourage people to do that. I think that's something once I got into a full-time role, like what are the things we published that. We published like a series around the merge, and it was really a good way to generate more traffic and interest in Rated in the company I work with. Because again, you can build a dashboard, you can put it out there, but you have to actively push it if you want to break into like the good opportunities and and the better roles, as GJ mentioned. So write about it, even though like it's you're not super confident with Twitter. People will teach you, and it's good. Like the only or like the best way to learn how to write good threads or write good blog posts is to just start writing, because people will be. One thing I learned about this space in this industry is that people are open to giving feedback, like people open to helping out, especially here in MetricsDAO. So just try it out and build that audience, and get more followers than I ever had for sure. But yeah.
Hey, I'd like to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is Aaron speaking. More specifically, if you all know who you would like to work with, so for those of you that maybe are a little more targeted and understand the companies that you're specifically looking to work for, I would even take it a step further and recommend that you do analysis that ties to whatever they're focusing on, and reach out to them directly. Maybe easy to identify 5 to 10 people within the organization of what you're trying to target, specifically create work that shows that you're already doing what they're focused on, and then target them directly either via Twitter DMs or LinkedIn if they have that, or any other way possible. For those of you that aren't as comfortable being out there in the social light, go that route as well. That directness shows that you're serious and dedicated. So it also will, push you a little bit further into that pipeline as well. We used to recommend this as well, just to our students at Chegg. So just a little bit of information.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic advice. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, like in one of the job interviews I had, like for this company, which I didn't end up joining, but I actually built a dashboard for them before the interview. So I shared it with them, and so that made me stand out more during the interview process. And eventually, while I don't think it's the sole factor, I think it helped them to eventually offer me a full-time job, because I showed some um, initiative to work on something that they had quite a problem with, was analyzing their own data, the data they had on chain. It was just one guy doing the analysis for them, so I wanted to help out, and I showed him the dashboard beforehand, and I think it made the whole process much more easier. And yeah, so definitely reach out, because you're basically doing free work for them in a way, right? So they will never be like, oh, what this junk, what are you doing? They'll be more than happy to check it out and eventually even offer you a role.
I couldn't agree more. I used to interview for 4 months. I had a consulting gig and I was just building a team. So I interviewed hundreds of people over those 4 months. So many people don't go above and beyond in an interview. They don't do anything special to stand out. If you show up with a dashboard that you have made for someone, that will immediately set you apart as prepared, as interested in the job, as organized. I can't tell you, just being a little bit better than the 99% of the people who don't do that work, goes a long way. And I promise you, of those hundreds, 1 or 2 took that extra step and were prepared beforehand and demonstrated it. Nothing will set you apart from the crowd faster. We are out of time. We've obviously only scratched the surface of this, so there will be a lot more of this content to come. Thanks, Aaron, for calling out networking. That's something that we're going to focus on for sure in upcoming community calls and education as well. One quick call out. We didn't talk at all about the Metrics app. We want to make sure to tell you a little bit more about what's coming, get your feedback, and give interested folks the opportunity to get in early and test it out. But we're really excited. The team has been cooking behind the scenes to try to make the entire submission process, claiming, reviewing better for you. We also didn't talk at all about reviews and plagiarism. So that's on me. We got too excited. I just love talking about this stuff. But we'll do a bit of a recap in the state of the DAO that's coming out later today, and announcements about the changes that we've made. Please continue to suggest how we can make it better, cut down on plagiarism, encourage better analysis. make it possible if you think your submissions have been unfairly graded. We're implementing all that feedback. We're excited for other feedback. So please share ideas for things that could make the program better and more fulfilling. Till then, we will probably go back to Tuesday for next community call. We'll also offer some polling around what day, what time makes the most sense, at least for the next few weeks in season 3, as we wind down and prepare for season 4 coming in a few weeks, sometime in March. So thank you all for dropping by. Great to see everybody, some familiar faces, some new faces. And don't forget to check the link and claim some Xmetric if you haven't. That's it for now. We will see all of you next time.